Okay, wait. Let me hold down this. Okay, good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to bore you to death because I'm going to give you a philosophical speech. Today, the title is Problem of Evil. So, what this is today I'm going to talk about this problem. I'm going to specifically explain what the problem is. And then I'm going to tell you one of the fallacious solution. Yeah, you heard that right. It's fallacious for a reason, but it's the most acceptable solution by one of the most prominent figure in this problem of evil, J.L. Mackie, and how it leads to paradox of omniscience. And then I'm going to tell you why you should study philosophy. So, can I pull this up? The problem is basically this.
Hit play.
Off, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what the problem is basically that there are three statements. God is omnipotent, God is morally good, yet evil still exists. So whenever you pick two of these statements, the last one will be wrong. Let me explain. So for example, if God is omnipotent and God is morally good, evil should not exist, right? Because he should have the power to get rid of evil, but yet he didn't. So I'm gonna try it once more. So if God is omnipotent and evil still exists, then that means that God is not morally good, right? And that kind of deviates from our construct of this God, this higher being that is always good. So moving on to the prominent figure's solution, fallacious solution, is that good is necessary for evil. This won't solve the problem itself, he said, but it's the one that you can make sense of. So the problem is that evil is necessary for good. So let's say that there is good one and evil one, okay? So good one is anything that is happiness and health, right? So evil is anything that is disease and the opposite, so evil, something that is bad, right? So what he says is that evil is necessary for good because it's going to expand to the idea of new good. So like good two is something like benevolence. Like for example, there's someone who's sick in evil one, and it creates an inspiration for you to be a doctor, right? So if you be a doctor, that's good too. But Mackie said this is fallacious because it's gonna spark some evil too, and it doesn't make sense that the problem is evil still exists. Evil doesn't diminish itself, right? So that was his one of his fallacious solutions. Another fallacious solution that he presents is that evil is created by our free will. You know how God gives us free will, right? So the problem is that if freedom creates evil too, evil too is something that is really like anything that we do that is bad. So for example, if you're trying to cheat off someone, you're trying to break someone, that is, our decision is based on freedom, and freedom is good treat. But it doesn't make sense because God will have a limitation to build us. And it leads to a paradox of omnipotence because if God can create something that is, God can create anything, can do anything, why can't he make us so that in such a manner that evil doesn't exist? Evil still exists in us. So yeah, I understand this is a little bit mind crunching, right? It was painful for the first 2 weeks that I took this class. But what I want you to get out from this is that philosophy is a hard thing to learn. but it's a really good method to have as well. For example, here, in this argument, you might not understand some of the premise, some of the assumptions that I made. And that's what I want you to do for anything that you will struggle with in the future. If you don't understand something, if you doubt something, if you doubt the conclusion, like for example, out of this conclusion, out of this argument, it should be noted that God does not exist. But you should be able to check the premise, check the assumptions, check what evidence they have. Try to test it, come to a fundamental nature of it, come to a fundamental nature where you can fight your ground on it, and then you shall decide whether you should accept the conclusion or not. So that's all for my speech. Thank you very much.
The purpose of the Toastmasters meeting is to develop your public speaking skills. So we like to have somebody come up and give a review, basically just kind of give you some pointers on what you did. So the first reviewer or evaluator, that's the word, is going to be Andy.
Right here, there. Yeah. You want me up there?
Okay.
You'll have to forgive me, I didn't have like the criteria in front of me, so I was going based off what Bill told me, which was that the speech was based on organization. So I thought that you laid out your speech very well. You had a clear-cut beginning, conclusion, or beginning, details, and conclusion. I thought that was all really well done. I thought the way you even broke down your argument for us to see, I thought this was really well organized. It was easy for me to keep track of. You had two different scenarios with good and evil, needing each other both to exist, and the two truths and one has to be false. I thought this was a very good layout. The only thing that I really had was difficulty in trying to track your conclusion, because it seemed like you just wrap things up really quick. And with philosophy, I think that's just a really difficult thing to do, so I wouldn't really be too discouraged by it. But just maybe if you were to choose a different topic, just be wary of being able to wrap up everything that you've had together and to really articulate your point. Even though your speech was based on the problem with evil, I thought you could have also said something maybe with a problem with philosophy just in general. So, again, this is just a suggestion I have. It's not this was wrong or anything, but you tied everything back to the principles of philosophy. And I think if you started with your speech, headlining that, I think that would have made things really interesting too. So, those are just a couple suggestions. Other than that, I thought, off topic, your body language was great. I thought you did a really good job. Yeah, good job.